All right, y'all. We are checking in from Molly's Cupcakes up in the Lincoln Park area.
Yeah,
right?
Lincoln Park.
Lived in Avondale for a little bit, but never Lincoln Park. But we are here. Beautiful area. A lot of people walking, even here in the cold of winter in Chicago. Betsy Petrie.
Yeah, hello.
How are you?
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Warm in here.
She got a new book, y'all. She got a new book out.
Yeah,
New book.
I do. So much to talk about.
Man, so the title of the book,
Yes.
Rails.
Rails Talk.
Rails Talk.
Rails Talk.
And we're here on another segment of Workplace Theater. This is our leadership series. And I thought, what better person, especially with this book and how it speaks to the leadership that's needed these days in our workforce, right?
You got that right, Chris.
Who is Betsy before we get into the book?
Oh, okay. Wow. Several facets. So everything I've done in my life is probably wrapping into this. I've been facilitating leadership development training for a long time. And I'm super comfortable on a stage because I'm a musician, and that was always going hand in hand with going to school, and my husband and I still play music together, so we have that outlet, which is awesome. Like an alt country rockabilly band, super fun. Who am I as a professional? Well, I've carved out this career, this niche in leadership development, and specifically this book has led me down. I think you kind of get into like a little more focused and a little more focused, and now I'm really on this idea of candor with kindness. And it is a skill, it is a developable skill, but we don't see it much in the workplace for various reasons, and it has a lot to do with who we are as human beings and whether or not we're willing to share, our honest feelings. I call it a candor continuum. So there's far left and far right, and where do you sit? And the goal is to figure out a way to get yourself as close to the center as you can while being completely honest.
Balance.
Yeah.
Balance between,
That's right.
I'm going to give it to you truthfully, but I'm also going to make sure that you don't hate me after I say it.
Right, because if I don't say it, Chris, in a way that you will hear and is meaningful to you, what is the point? What's the point? Then if you're only doing it for you, then the whole thing is going to fall apart and could cause you some trouble.
Yeah.
So it was some years ago. I'm teaching leadership development and so many really great topics. And by the way, I just continue to maintain that it's the funniest thing. There are many, many people in management roles and leadership roles that have not had any formal training. They've learned it, by pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and just finding out how to do it and probably making a fair amount of mistakes. So I've learned over time that there are people in high level leadership roles that maybe never learned the art, if you will, of candor with kindness. They've never practiced it. And so as a result, in any form of leadership, one or two things happens. And I'm really talking about complex conversations or difficult conversations. Either you've tried it before and it's blown up in your face, so then you give up or you avoid. Right? Or the opposite extreme would be steamrolling or being too strong with your words or not being receiver-centric. And as a result, lots of leaders choose not to engage in candor at all because, it makes your heart race.
It does. Life makes your heart race, though, right?
Yeah,
and
you're right.
Choosing to say nothing,
Yeah,
or choosing to say something. And when we say nothing, then we live with regret, all the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and to your point, is finding a balance.
right. So where I am right now is honing in on this because it really, really matters when it comes to leadership, right? If you are not honest with your direct reports, there's a lot of, bad outcomes downfalls as a result. So if I can't be honest with my direct report about the quality of their performance, then I'm never going to give them an opportunity to develop the skill, right? So you take that down the road, that's when people end up on performance improvement plans and getting booted out of an organization while never having had the chance to U-turn their performance, right? So it shows up in performance reviews. It shows up in career development. If I'm not honest about someone's areas of opportunity, and if you think about it, why would you not be honest about that? You want your employees to thrive. So I'm on this campaign for leadership of empowering managers to get in their heads, it is a privilege. It's a privilege to grow people. And when you watch them learn something new and, sidebar, take something off of your plate,
Right.
it's so great. I'm a very people-centric person, so for me, I get a lot of joy from that. And if someone's very practical or logical or pragmatic, they might just say, the benefit of that is I got something off my plate, so I don't have to do that thing anymore because my direct report, took it over.
Taught them how to fish.
Yeah,
right?
so we have, based on our psychological type and our communication style, preferences for the outcomes, both of which are great. Delegating, getting something off your plate, being able to manage your time better, growing a direct report, all good, no matter your desire or preference, right? Where your mind goes. Yeah, so that's my bent. That's why I wrote the book.
I was gonna say we're gonna do an icebreaker, but Betsy already broke the ice a little for us.
I did.
But I will pose this, little tidbit of an icebreaker. So, if you could pick like any book, any podcast, any kind of excerpt of something that has made you the leader you are, or positioned your leadership style, what would that book be?
I will tell you that it's probably an assessment and everything that goes around that assessment, because as I was really growing in my career, there weren't a lot of podcasts. And I'm super action oriented, so to slow down enough to read a book was not my favorite thing to do. So I've definitely learned a lot by experience, but I would say the one item that turned it around for me, even though I have a master's in communication, no one in formal learning settings ever taught me about things like Myers-Briggs or DISC, the fact that, wow, we don't all come from the same place. We don't have, I'm sure you're hearing that from my conversation already, is that it's very important to know yourself and what your strengths are, and also your blind spots, or, AKA, I'd much rather call them areas of opportunity. I love that language because it's so positive. So if you know those things about yourself, then you'll be more successful understanding how to turn it outward to implement candor with kindness, for instance, because I need to know where I'm coming from, but also who are you? How are we similar? How are we different? And if I can figure out that with a simple tool, it's going to greatly increase my chances. So I would say William Marsden's DISC, Theory of Communication, DISC, and the reason I love it so much, I'm a big fan of all, there are so many different types of assessments. DISC is great because the assessment is really robust, and when you take this 10 to 15 minute assessment, you end up getting like a 23-page report that gives you incredible insights into yourself. And that is the best place to start. Then additionally, it gives you insight into where you might have challenges or ease with other styles. And the beauty of the DISC assessment is DIS and C, so it's a 4-square. And it's 2 dichotomous pairs of opposites that result in one of 4 styles. So in a workplace, incredibly easy to think about 2 questions in your mind, and then type a person, DIS or C, and then think immediately of 1 or 2 things that you could do to improve your ability to be received in a way that the other person will hear it and be able to possibly take action or be actionable on your words.
What I love that you said is it wasn't about like taking that finger and pointing it out. It's like, yeah, I need to self-assess first before I can even assess someone else to know how are we gonna collaborate together. But if we're always trying to like assess our employee, like, well, you need to do that, or you're looking like this, and we never say, but how am I communicating with
Sure.
them?
And the truth is, people love to learn about themselves. They love to do assessments, and so it's a great place to start. Let's talk about you and stuff that you like and stuff that's easy for you. We'll start talking about your strengths, and then from there we'll slide into, as a result of that, I bet there are some challenges in this area. So the beauty of this 23-page report is it's pretty simple. It's great science behind it, and even the most scrutinizing of leaders or individual contributors can see themselves in the report, and it speaks truth to them, right? So it's the core, but yeah, you're right. Start with yourself.
Yeah.
Learn some cool stuff about yourself. Appreciate yourself for the good things that you are and the good stuff that you can do. And then, how could you fine tune to just make it perhaps just a little areas of growth for yourself? Yeah.
Love it. So with the changing work landscape, so many things, political landscape, all of that, what do you feel is one of the biggest challenges in building a great team?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to start by telling you what I think is not a challenge, to give you some proper context. I don't think it's a challenge to build a quality team virtually or remote. And I've done it enough and seen it enough that I know that it's quite possible. So I guess I would say it really depends on how a leader makes space for interactions and engagement that perhaps have nothing to do with work. So what you miss when you're not in the office is that incidental communication, water cooler chat, let's go get a cup of coffee. But you can build that into a virtual environment. So I'm really pleased to see the work that continues to be done, and that parlays us into this this landscape right now where organizations are trying to figure out what's the proper balance of working in the office versus working from home versus working anywhere. And how do you manage that, right? That's a big challenge. I think the biggest challenge in the workplace right now is trying to sort out what your team is capable of and what your organization is capable of remotely, and whether or not they have to come into the office. So I'm very keyed into a lot of organizations, and I do a lot of interviews with employees, and they will tell me going into the office is a waste of time, because sure enough, not everyone's going to be there, and there aren't enough seats, and there aren't enough conference rooms. And when I'm at home, we can have a team meeting. Everybody's in, everybody's on. They're using the chat feature. We're sharing ideas. We're all in. But when you're in the office, you're trying to have a meeting and there isn't space for it. So then you're having to mute and you can't turn on, or you have to ask someone else to turn on because you're sitting next to each other in a cubicle. So there's a lot still that needs to be learned there, and what a manager's role in it is to create a really healthy other than work environment. And that's a manager's responsibility to make sure that that's built in. And it doesn't have to be like, let's fun and games. No, it's just allowing people hop on early. The first 5 minutes of your meeting has nothing to do with work. We're all getting together. We're talking about, how was your birthday, or how was your, son's or daughter's football practice? You were a little worried about it. How'd that go? Creating that sense, I think, is probably the biggest challenge that we're going to face as we continue to grow teams.
So how do we keep each other engaged, with that? What are some things?
Engagement, the concept of it is, to me, all tied with, the I word, inclusion. And if I feel like I belong, and I feel like my ideas are being given credence, then I'm engaged. So think about how much of that has to do with the leader, the direct leader on a team. So if I'm the manager, it's my responsibility to create the environment where you're being heard. It's like, I feel like we're already circling around, one size and one approach to leadership. By now, if people are listening, I think they're probably realizing that, we are not robots. We're human beings, and each one of us is so unique. We could argue that that's a really important challenge that we're facing right now that's, terribly, terribly upsetting to me, because my best teams are the diverse teams. So we're coming from all over the place. We have completely different approaches. And what I'm finding, and people might argue if they see this down the road, the best products, the best deliverables are made by the diverse teams, because they don't let anything fall through the cracks. And I'm nervous that this whole concept of, we know that the D word, diversity, is being confused. People are really confused, and they don't understand what it really means, because it's been crossed hairs with some kind of hiring practice where there's some question whether or not somebody got hired because they were a diverse candidate, and we needed that, which is upsetting to hear. And if an organization took their hiring practices too far, you might argue that it possibly could have happened, but in reality, my personal reality is I have not seen it. But what I have seen is an organization's lack of attention being paid to promoting a diverse candidate for their qualifications, and also promoting the great work they're doing inside of an organization, so that mindset is quelled, right? So let's we are talking about some challenges right now. Yeah. But if we can, as leaders of people, focus on the fact that it is not a one-size-fits-all proposition, and that it's our privilege, I like that word much better than responsibility, to sort out the uniqueness and the diverse nature of our team, so that we can then figure out what's missing, and we can fill that gap, so that in the end, our deliverables are the highest quality possible, right?
The more differences, the better. Man. If we have a structure.
No question.
Those differences
There's no question.
Yeah.
We can get into all kinds of communication theory, groupthink, and what happens if everyone agrees, and how it turns out to be a terrible product because you missed the mark, right? That's a small percentage, perhaps. Yeah.
For sure. So what is a leadership principle that you feel has had the biggest impact on your career?
I think it's the realization that one size does not fit all. How important that is. And a assessment like DISC really highlights that. So that, for me, has been the most important and the most impactful in my career, is to highlight the need and the value of sorting out all the diversity on a team, to make sure that you are, number one, taking care of your people. How are you unique? What do you need from me? So many lessons in my career. I'm very affiliative, and I love to connect with people, right? So in the office environment, I had to learn. When I had an employee who was the opposite of me, if I were to walk up and say, hey, I had a question, I wanted to run something by you, and they're super conscientious, hyper-focused on their task, that's annoying. It's annoying. So then I could come across as annoying. As soon as I started keying into that stuff, my ability to lead people really, escalated, because they could see that I was being mindful and using tactics. They call it the platinum rule, right? So I want to treat you the way that you want to be treated, rather than saying, I want you to treat me
The way I want to be treated, yes.
So if I have a very thoughtful, careful, methodical employee, they will not enjoy me tapping them on the shoulder, whether that's a ping, a
Electronic tap or
whether it's literally we're in the office together and I'm bothering you, or I'm pinging you on Teams or whatever platform you use to say, hi, how you doing? That's not helpful to some people.
Right.
And then with others, the opposite is true, that they would like to know that you are thinking about them, and that could make their day. I was just thinking about you, how you doing? A person like me, that would bring me joy if my manager did that to me. So there are, talk about diversity. That's one example, of we're not the same people. We operate differently. And it's how you start to open the door to think about people as incredibly unique, and just to really find ways that they feel engaged, and to create a motivational environment for someone else. We don't motivate people in the end as a leader. That's not our job. But our job is to create a motivational environment so that we get that desire to give discretionary effort, wake up in the morning and think, oh, I have a great idea for that project, and to trust that bringing that idea forth is a positive, right?
I love that you said we don't motivate people, right? Like, we set up an environment.
Yeah.
I think I struggle a lot with some of the youth I work with like trying to get them to do this thing that I see in them, versus I have to trust I'm going to create the environment for you. You're going to get it or you're not. Maybe you will in 10 years, it'll sink in, but just trusting that, like, that one size that fit this person may not fit this young adult.
And that's a complex conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why I ended up becoming an author, is that I saw that when a leader needs to engage in a complex conversation, let's just say, for instance, in your situation, you had an employee and you wanted to bring out this particular area of opportunity in them, or to get them to do a thing that they weren't doing. If it's in the best interest of the team, then that becomes a complex conversation where you need to say to this person, hey, thanks for meeting with me. I noticed that in your work environment, you're tending to avoid X. And X is something that our team really needs. I know you've touched on it before. I think you have great potential in that area. I'm just curious, like, what's going on? And you're halfway through a Rails talk at that point. And it's incredibly simple if you have the template in your brain where you can respectfully relate. That's the platinum rule. You have to be thinking about you, who are you, and then relate my concern, right? And that's all R. And then A is ask a simple question like, hey, what's going on? And then I stop talking, period, and then I L, listen, because I need to now hear why. And you're gonna then, your employee will share with you why they're not doing it.
Or they won't share, which is another.
Yeah, but as you are the leader, it's your responsibility to sort out. And if they, for instance, said that's not part of my job description, then it's your responsibility to sort out why that skill should be developed and what it could lead to and how. Truth be told, many of us do things every day that are not part of our job description, and that's the reality. That's part of our lives, right? So maybe that becomes part of your Rails talk. So you're having a conversation and you're saying, hey, the truth is, many of us are doing things that are not part of our job description. As a matter of fact, you will often be doing the next level to your role, and you're going to be thinking, hey, I'm doing the next level role, I'm looking for that salary bump. Well, in reality, anyone in a professional HR situation will tell you, you're doing the role before you get promoted into the role.
You have to show
the
value
majority of the time, right?
Yeah.
Because then we know you can do it, so now we're going to give you the money. That's the truth. So, talk about motivation. I have to want to get to the next level, or I have to want to develop a skill. And that's why difficult conversations are so important, is you have to be able to speak candidly and kindly about an area of opportunity with someone, especially if they're holding back something that you know will be of value to your team. Yeah.
That's why she's the author, y'all. Check out that book. Golden nuggets in there.
Yeah, it was really fun to write, and I wrote it as a workbook, so you can step by step figure out how to create a Rails talk, because the acronym is a template. RAILS. These are the parts, right? So respectfully relate, ask a simple question. I stop talking, listen, and then the last piece is steps and summary, and that's where you're going back and forth and you're sorting out what is my role as a manager, how can I help you, but it's not solely my job.
Do you want to be here? Like, how do you see this partnership
and
working?
I want to see you do this. So here's what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do? All right, so that's the steps. You're trying to figure out who's going to do what in order to get what you are looking for, right? Performance, the difference between what you want or need and what you're getting. That's a performance gap. So if you're looking to close a gap with an employee, you have to speak to that and say, you know, I really want this, but it's not happening right now. This is what I see happening instead. What's going on? Stop talking.
Performance plus trust.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Equals positive work culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my business.
Trust.
Joe said that earlier today. It's tough things to find, to build, I should say, versus find.
Mm-hmm.
Love this. Love this. If there was one shift that you think that leaders should really focus on as we are already into 2025, kind of getting our feet under us, like what would be that one shift?
Yeah. I would really like to see managers promote a climate where each individual feels the sense of belonging and engagement. And if we can get to that place where they feel that their voice is heard, if they want to share, right? To your point, sometimes employees, especially if they're careful and methodical and they don't necessarily trust the environment, they might not choose to have their voice heard. As long as they're still being productive, that's not going to be a detriment to you. Sometimes people are just, lean toward introversion or can be counted on to do their job well, but maybe perhaps not risk often creative or innovative solution because they don't feel comfortable. That will take time. But I think it's the necessity to recognize that one size does not fit all, and that some employees will want their voice to be heard, others will not. Each creative environment for someone to want to bring their best to work each day is unique. It's not a one-size-fits-all proposition, and it's not hard to figure that out. You just have to want to do it. It is a manager's privilege to sort that out for other human beings.
A privilege, y'all.
Yeah.
That's a privilege.
Our personal brand, who we are as leaders. I think the definition of that is what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And if you believe that, one of my principles has always been when someone leaves my team, goes to another department or finds the next big opportunity and they're gone, I want them to look back on their time with me and say, Betsy Petrie helped me to grow myself, and she pushed me in ways that helped me to gain new skill, and now I'm a more valuable employee than when I got to her team. That's what I want. That's what I want my brand to be, and it's what I want really all managers to be thinking about, that you were responsible for creating an environment where people could thrive according to who they are as individuals.
It makes my heart feel so good. That's how it should be.
It's the world
right?
I want. It's how it should be.
Yeah.
One by one we can do that, and right now we're not going to be relying on DEI training right? So because it's a challenge right now, it's kind of being wiped away and it's under threat. And so what I want from leaders is to recognize that we don't need training for that. We need to recognize that human beings are incredibly valuable. Each one is unique. And if you're having an attitude or performance issue on your team with an individual, that is your responsibility and your privilege, right? So, yeah.
Well, this is
a little optimistic, I know.
No, and I think we have to be realistically optimistic too, though, with the understanding that there is a force of nature fighting against us, trying to bring people together.
Yeah, that's right. And we have to be honest that sometimes there will be complex conversations. And that's my thing right now. I wrote that book because I saw it as a huge gap and inside of organizations, and mostly because I think they were not taught the skill. So I'm here to teach that skill so that we can live a little more peacefully and productively amongst each other.
This has been amazing insight. Is there anything that you want to leave the people?
I'm just really appreciative of the time, Chris. It's great to meet you and to talk about these things that I'm so on fire about and have that kinship with you. So thank you so much.
Thank
Awesome.
you. The book, how can people purchase it?
Oh, gosh.
What can they do?
It's called Rails Talk, RAILS Talk, a
Rails Talk.
workbook for tough conversations for people managers, and anywhere you buy books, any platform you're going to find it, right? And BetsyPetrie.com is my website. For some reason you can't find the book, or you want to learn more about the kind of work that I do, or you just want to have a conversation or a lift on. For 2025, my objective is to have healthy conversations like this, because the outcome is lifting people up and doesn't have to result in a job. I just want to talk about these things that I know are so important. So BetsyPetrie.com, Rails Talk, a Tough Conversations workbook for people managers.
I love it. We got the coffee machine being made, so forgive us for the loud noises. But this has been another episode of the Workplace Theater. This is our leadership series. Huge thank you to Betsy Petrie. Check out her book. Go purchase it, go listen to it, go do all the things, especially if you're a leader looking to have some of those tough conversations. Check her out. Stay tuned. Again, growexponential.com. And you can follow us on YouTube at Workplace Theater.